What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Real Fanatics. I'm your host, Farhan, here again with my man Vito, and today we'll be breaking down our top 10 favorite comic book films. We'll be only breaking down and going in detail on the top five. We want to give you our full 10 of the comic book films that we hold near and dear and that we personally enjoy the most. So I'll let Vito go ahead and give you his 6 through 10, and then I'll follow ahead with mine.
All right. So number 6, we are going to go with Kick Ass. um, Kick Ass was a low key banger. Came out of nowhere. People loved it. Now I'm going to a little tangent real quick, just real quick. The person that wrote Kick Ass is Mark Millar. He wrote The Boys. He wrote Kingsman. He wrote Wanted. I don't know what it is about this guy, but he's like a I don't know, man. He writes shit, but he writes shit that gets produced into fucking good movies. Um, and Kick Ass was one of them, which also has what's Aaron Taylor Johnson in
Aaron
it,
Taylor Johnson,
who
yep, he's the
plays
lead.
Quicksilver
Mhm.
and Age of Ultron, which is my number 6. Um, Age of Ultron, I
You
I
mean your number
believe
seven?
yes. I'm not
Yeah,
seven. I'm
okay,
sorry.
okay.
Age of Ultron. Ultron was probably one of the best villains to me out of the whole of the MCU. Probably one of the best villains.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
King Stage
Uh,
was good.
I'm gonna throw in Captain America: Winter Soldier. It was a lot going on in it, and it was good.
Hmm.
It didn't have all of the heroes in it. It focused around two people. Cap, Natasha had Nick Fury in there a little bit, but it built onto it had a lot of foundation into what's coming into the next phase of the MCU,
Yeah.
which leads into my number 8, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Another sleeper that came out of nowhere. I love the transition from Falcon and the Winter Soldier to Captain America and the Winter Soldier. And another now this is the TV show. It set up a lot for this next phase again. We have the introduction of oh my god, I'm forgetting his name. The Black Captain America. Um
Falcon.
Isaac.
Oh,
Nope.
you're talking about yeah, Isaac, I think.
Something
Isaiah.
like that. Isaiah Thomas. It's not
Isaiah.
Isaiah Thomas. That's the
Isaiah
basketball player.
Bradley.
Bradley. Isaiah
Yes.
Bradley.
I don't know, he's gonna come to us eventually. Yes, Isaiah Bradley.
and, and to his grandson, who they didn't say if he has powers or not or anything in it, but he does become a I don't think he does he's not Captain America in the young
Oh,
Avengers, but
I
he
know who
he
you're talking about. The little
does he
black kid who has
I
the
think
cap shield and
he has a
everything.
little shield. I forget the name he goes by, but
He was in
again,
Ultimate Alliance too, for those of y'all who played that game.
they need to make another one. I'm just
I'm gonna do some research because I know who you're talking about. But as you're talking, I'm gonna do some
I
research on
just
who the character
can't
is.
remember his name. Number 9 is going to be, again. This is probably one of the best Batman movies ever made. I switch back and forth between the Dark Knight Rises and Dark Knight. I'm gonna go with the Dark Knight. Um, and Heath Ledger as the Joker was just insane. Like, not even
Yeah,
the
no one's touching
Batman.
that.
Heath Ledger made that movie what it was.
Yeah.
Like, throughout random times throughout the day, I catch myself, I'm like a dog with I'm like a dog
Yeah.
chasing a
Don't go
car.
to.
I
I don't know what I do. I
don't know
just
what I'm gonna
caught
do
it.
when I catch it.
Yeah, very a lot of quotables. A lot of
So
quotables.
many. And my number 10 is going to be. I'm not going to take yours. It's going to be.
You were about to take mine. That's crazy.
I was. I'm going to do the Watchmen movie. Um, it was probably one of
Okay.
the best adaptions to a comic book, to an actual comic book, one for one. Again, we already know I don't really like one for ones because, again, I've read that book, I've seen the picture, so in my mind I've seen everything that's happening.
Yeah.
But they do have some changes in there, and but one for one is probably the best adaptation of a comic book to this day. and you don't find a lot of people, comic book fans, that are going to have a problem with this movie. And comic book fans, nerds, geeks, whatever you have it, they will pick apart any and everything.
Anything, yes.
And that is consistently being one of the movies that they cannot pick apart. That's my top or my bottom
Yeah,
five,
yeah,
I
your bottom
guess.
five. So I'll start in reverse order. I'll start with number 10. I'm gonna go with Black Panther. Not gonna go too deep into it, but I
Thank you.
think I think culturally the importance of that movie can't be understated. I think Chadwick Boseman's performance is phenomenal, even though I think he was a little outshined in this movie. Not because he did a bad job, but just because I think the character of Killmonger was just
Oh,
strong
you
as a
did it
villain.
anyway.
I did it anyway. Most people agree that Killmonger was one of the better villains in the MCU. I think most people would agree with
Most
that.
people are wrong. They're
I
wrong.
think
They are
most people would
fucking
agree with that.
wrong.
I
Listen, we're gonna
definitely
have
would
to
agree
do an
with that.
episode just on Black Panther, and ah, you're
He
killing
just
me,
was
bro. You're killing
he
me,
was one of
brother.
the stronger villains in the MCU for sure. And there's a lot in this film that I thought they did very well, especially introducing us to a new world that we hadn't seen in the MCU before. So I'm gonna put Black Panther as my number 10. Didn't want to put it too high because I don't think it's as good as some of the other films I'm gonna name on this list, but definitely wanted to give it its recognition. Number 9, I'm gonna go X-Men: Days of Future Past. Another caveat: I don't have any TV shows on my list. That's just as another caveat to y'all. I'm a film guy. Most of my beloved things when it comes to superhero and comic books are films, not TV shows. That's just me. But number 9 is X Men: Days of Future Past. I think out of the newer, the Michael Fassbender and the James McAvoy era X Men films, I think that Days of Future Past is the best one by far. And you could make the argument it's the best X Men movie out of all of them. I don't personally agree with that, but if someone told me that, I wouldn't say they were crazy. I think that highly of this film. Number 8, I'm
No
gonna
Dark
go.
Phoenix.
Man, look, I did a lot of work to try to forget that Dark Phoenix happened. So I appreciate you for ruining that. For number 8, I'm gonna go Spider Man Into the Spider Verse to pivot off of Dark Phoenix as quickly as possible. Um, I put Spider Man Into the Spider Verse. I wasn't really. I was one of the people when they first announced this movie. I was cautiously excited because it was the first time we got any Spider Man story on the big screen that wasn't Peter Parker. And Miles Morales was a character that was starting to gain some traction around this time and get a little bit more popularity. So I was very curious to see what they would do with him in a solo project, especially an animated one, and it exceeded my expectations in every way. Phenomenal film. The second one is great too, but I think the first one was I think the best one, especially the one that set the tone for the Spider Verse film that we got after that, and hopefully the third one whenever that comes. So Spider Man Into the Spider Verse at number 8, phenomenal film, and definitely still holds up as one of the best, in my opinion, best superhero films ever made. Number 7 is a classic, a timeless classic. This is a film that we will look back on, I think, and go like, yes, this is a classic of its time, and that's The Incredibles.
Hmm.
We're almost. I mean, we're 2024 now. We're almost 10 years from the release of that film. Not to age everybody, but I think it's already creeping its way into classic status, in my opinion. But Pixar generally doesn't miss in any of their films, not even just superhero ones. But The Incredibles is like a bona fide certified classic and one of the best superhero movies ever made, and definitely deserving to be on this list. And to round out at number 6, I put Spider Man 2. I wanted to have at least one of the first two Sam Raimi Spider Man films on here. And when I was juggling between which one I wanted, just because those films were so integral into like my fandom of superhero films and film in general, was watching those earlier Sam Raimi Spider Man films. I landed on the second one, because I thought there was a lot more done with the character of Peter Parker in that film. And also, I personally would give the slight edge to Alfred Molina's Doc Ock over Green Goblin. Now, this is granted before I saw No Way Home.
Hmm.
So, No Way Home, Green Goblin, is kind of pushed to the
Top
forefront
10.
there.
Top
Yeah,
10.
that No Way Home, Green Goblin is a different story. But if we're just talking specifically the Sam Raimi universe, I would give a slight edge to Doc Ock, and that's why I would put Spider-Man 2 on here. So yeah, that's my 6 through 10. I'm gonna give a small little rundown of my honorable mention before we get into the top five. I have 4 films in my honorable mention. And I'll throw one TV show that I think could have. If I were going to put any TV shows on the list, I'll tell you which one that would be. So my honorable mention is Blade, because that's one of the first superhero movies I ever watched, and actually the first rated R movie I've ever seen. Yeah. So that was like early childhood memory. First rated R movie I ever watched was the original Blade. That was I think obviously the film that kind of kicked off all the superhero the rise of the superhero genre as we know it was kicked off by Blade. So I wanted to give that film its proper credit. Captain America: Civil War. Captain America by far has the best trilogy in the MCU, and it's not close. Like it's not close. So yeah, not much else needs to be said.
And that's even with the first movie not being that strong.
The first,
the second and third movie
are that
just
good.
Fucking Jesus.
And like the first one is still a really solid film, but it's like the second and third ones are so good. It's like the first one is just there as like a support. Like, that one was decent too. But like
my issue is I don't like timepieces. I don't like when they go back in time in anything. I hate it.
Yeah, but you had to do that to set up this character.
Did we though? That's that's really
that's literally his origin.
That's really like saying we need to watch Martha and Thomas die in every Batman movie. That's his origin.
Different.
We don't need to watch Superman planet blow up every movie.
That's very different because everyone universally knows the stories of Superman and Batman. Outside of you and me, regular people didn't know Captain America's backstory.
They could have did that quickly, man.
But my next honorable mention is a little bit more recent, actually very, very recent, as in this year recent, and it's Deadpool and Wolverine.
Okay.
I didn't want to put it on the list. Like I said, a little too fresh, and I don't personally think it's as strong. Maybe Black Panther is the only film in my top 10 that I would take off for it. But Deadpool and Wolverine I personally enjoyed it that much. I thought that's how you do a multiverse movie. If Doctor Strange 2 is paying any attention, that is how a multiverse movie should be done, in my opinion. And then last honorable mention before I get to the TV show is the Batman.
Matt Reeves?
Yes, with Matt Reeves.
Okay.
This film went through, if you know the backstory of what that movie was supposed to be, you'll understand why I and a lot of other film fans and nerds were very, very pleased with how good it was. Because considering this film was supposed to start out, this was supposed to be Ben Affleck's solo Batman movie, with Ben Affleck directing it. And then obviously you see that's not what we ended up getting. So the fact that film went through that many changes and still we ended up getting the product that we got, I think is very impressive. And we need to, give credit there. And the only TV show that I would have considered putting on this list is Netflix's Daredevil. Like I said, I think all the films on this list for me resonate a lot more than any TV show I've watched. But that is the one superhero TV show that I would creep in here if I were to have one on the list. But that's my honorable mention.
Okay, so
top 5.
I forgot I didn't do my my honorable, and they're gonna be real quick, and it's gonna be some that you're not gonna say are superheroes, but let's be honest, they are. The first one is gonna be the Fast and Furious franchise.
They're
not superheroes. They're not superheroes.
By those movies' dumb logic of Dom pulling down buildings on his head, yes, but like no,
that's what
like they're not.
So I'm gonna throw Fast and Furious into almost any category I can.
Running into highway traffic signs and getting up like it's nothing.
Because
by that logic, maybe
it's a joke, but it's a joke that I love. They're terrible movies, and I'm gonna watch every single one of them.
Yeah.
Fast and Furious 40. I'm in fucking theaters watching it.
Yeah, I can't get away with calling that a superhero film. That's crazy work.
I'm gonna throw in James Bond because I'm be honest with you. When I was looking at this, listen to my logic. When I was looking at this, I was thinking comic book. I wasn't thinking superhero. I was thinking comic book, not superhero.
That's fair.
But again, Batman's a superhero, correct?
That is correct.
James Bond if Batman is a superhero, James Bond is a fucking superhero.
I will give you James Bond over Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I was just joking about Fast and Furious.
I'll give you James Bond over Fast and Furious.
I was joking about Fast and Furious. James Bond, though, definitely.
James Bond, I'll give you. Yes, I'll give you James Bond.
So let me start over. My honorable mentions.
Fast and Furious was crazy.
James Bond.
Okay.
The second one is going to be a TV show called The Magicians.
Never saw it, so you're gonna have to
It
help
is.
me
It
out
was on.
here.
It was on Sci-Fi Channel. Really
Okay.
obscure. It was
Okay.
one of those. It wasn't even a young. I wanted. I thought it was a YA book. It's not a young adult book. It's
Okay.
like it's a mature book, and it's like a mix between Harry Potter and Narnia, but rated R.
Okay.
It's fire. And my number one honorable mention. I'm sorry, two. Second is gonna be the Dark. I said the Dark Knight Rises in my top 10, so it's gonna be Meteor Man.
What are we
Robert
doing here,
Townsend.
y'all? What are we?
Robert,
Meteor
the
Man?
first black superhero,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean that is a superhero movie.
and
Yes.
and technically he's in the MC. He's in the Marvel universe. He's not in the MCU, but he's in the Marvel universe because
Technically.
after the film came out, they made a comic book that Marvel
Hmm.
owns.
Yes, I do. I did hear about that. So
He's
technically,
he's a smaller superhero that
yeah,
I would love an updated version of it
yeah.
because again he was the first.
I was that kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting you to say Meteor Man.
Exactly.
That like
You like I mean
that
you lucky I
really.
didn't say Blank Man.
That, I actually wouldn't have had a problem with Blank Man. I'm gonna be
But you got
real. I would have had no problem with Blank Man.
Oh man. So
I would have had no problem with Blank Man at all.
that's my honorable mentions. I actually should have had Kick Ass in my honorable mentions because I hate Mark Millar as a writer.
Hmm.
But he has so much he's writes so much, and a lot of what he writes is shit. And when he does write something that's solid and good, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And whatever contacts he has or whoever he knows that's getting his shitty comic books turned into movies and TV shows, because Jupiter, I think it's Jupiter Legacy, something like that, got canceled off Netflix one season. He wrote that shit too. So,
Okay.
You want me to kick off the top five? You gonna kick off the top five?
You can go ahead and kick off the top five.
All right. So, am I doing all my five first, or how we doing it? Flip flop.
Yeah, you can do your five. I'll do my five, and we'll
All
go
right.
that way.
So my number five is going to be Justice League Dark. I'm sorry, Justice League Apocalypse War.
Okay.
Now, this is up there because I want to say this came out after the Justice League movie. Okay. Now the Justice League animated universe was already going on, and they had bangers. They had Flashpoint. They had Justice League
bangers.
War. King of Atlantis or something like that. The DC the animated DC universe is fire, and like I said, I believe this came out after Justice League, not before the Snyder Cut. Excuse me, but when it came out again, they fought Darkseid. You know, they went to war with Apocalypse, as the name of the film suggests. It had so many members of the Justice League in there, and again, the one thing that I do want to say about animated versus live action is animated's able to get away with a lot more. Okay, it's easier to watch Superman punch somebody through a building in animated than it is live action because of the special effects or the practical effects. How much that's going to cost them, whether if they choose to animate it, so much easier. Animated movies they're going to tend to be a lot more extra. It's going to be a lot more of what you see in the comic books. But Dark Side War, it kind of bridged the gap of, what is it? Am I thinking of, no, that was when Superman came back to life in Justice League movie, correct?
In the
The live
Snyder
action.
one?
Yeah.
Yes.
So again, the anime universe has always been fire, but when Justice League Apocalypse War came out, it was something that you didn't see in those superhero movies, is them losing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just we lost this fight, we're going to come back. They were beaten. They lost badly. They lost so bad that Flash had to do another Flashpoint. Now, which again, Flashpoint, if you don't know, which if you've seen this terrible ass Flash movie, live action Flash movie that came out, they touch on it and they kind of fuck up Flashpoint.
Yeah,
but
they attempted it.
Barry Allen goes back in the past to stop his mother from dying, and he creates another timeline where, again, everything's not what it should be. Batman's not Batman, Superman's not Superman, and there's a lot more messed up stuff going on. So they already had a Flashpoint movie, but again, Barry Allen, after they finally come back and beat Darkseid, almost everybody's dead. I think Robin died or Batman died. Somebody died at the end of this movie. But when I tell you they destroyed these heroes in the first 10 minutes of this movie, you watched so many heroes die. And that's just something you don't see in comic book or superhero movies anymore ever at all, because nobody wants to see a movie where it's depressing. When your hero
where it's dark, the heroes is getting
where your heroes are down the entire time. Justice League's most power, or the DC's most powerful person, Superman, was depowered. He got his ass beat. They put kryptonite in his blood. He couldn't do anything. He was walking around as a regular dude.
Yeah.
And John Constantine brought it back. And again, you're gonna start seeing a theme of why I like these things. Justice League, Apocalypse War sets up this new universe that the animated universe has. It sets it up completely. And if you start watching the new movies that they come out, they got like 3 or 4 of them out. But at this point, you don't need to watch the old one, the old one, to know what's going on. But when you do watch it and you see it, you're like, okay, that's why this is happening. You see why these things are happening. Because I started watching one of them, I'm like, yo, who is this person? Why is he there? But that callback. So, like I said, it was just something that they don't do. Number 4.
Are we going back and forth, or you going through the rest of your top 5?
Let me, because you didn't watch Darkseid War, right? Or Apocalypse War.
I did not. No, I have not seen that.
So I'm gonna do my number 4, and then you do your 5 and 4, and we flip flop. Because my number 4 is The Dark Knight, and I know you've seen The Dark Knight.
Yes, I have.
So, like I said, I flip flop between this one and The Dark Knight Rises, because I hated The Dark Knight Rises when it first came out, but it grew on me. Bane had some bangers, but more so, and honestly, I like the whole movie overall. But The Dark Knight, it's just, it's not a lot of comic book villains or superhero villains or super villains that honestly stands up to Heath Ledger's Joker.
It's a very hard performance to top.
It's a very hard performance, and he's one of the reasons that I give people their chances now. Because the same thing with Heath Ledger. I think he had just came out with Brokeback Mountain or some shit like that.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of backlash when he was announced as Joker. People was like, who?
Yeah, because he was like he did a lot of romance movies and teen movies. So he's like a heartthrob person. They're like, the Joker? He can't be the Joker. And he came out and blew it out of the water. Almost every scene that he's in that movie was fired.
There's a quotable in damn near every scene.
Every scene that he's in, there's a quotable.
There's a quote in damn near every scene he's in.
Even the ones, and when it's not a quotable, it's just a fire ass scene. When he walks into, first of all, the opening scene of the movie when he robs the bank.
Yeah,
I think we knew that it was going to be about the Joker, but when they were robbing the bank, nobody's expecting the Joker to be there. And people start dying, and you're like, okay, well, that's what the Joker does. Mm-hmm. He wants to be the only one, mm-hmm. And then at the end, it's the Joker, and the way he gets away, and he steals a school bus, or
Yeah. No, that opening scene goes crazy.
He kidnapped so many people during that movie, even that scene where he's with Harvey at the hospital, and I had to watch this so many times, and I've seen people talking about it online. When he puts the gun up to his head, mm-hmm. and he puts Harvey's finger on the trigger, he's giving Harvey the illusion of killing him because his
Yeah.
finger is like between the hammer,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
between the hammer and the striker. So he can't, even if he pulls the trigger, he's gonna, his thumb might hurt, but he's not dying.
Yeah.
And it just shows how, you know, he's fucking insane.
But he's
But
calculated.
he is calculated. He's a
Yeah.
genius. Even with the, again, and when you go back to him giving Batman the option between Rachel and Harvey, he knew Batman was the only one that was going to be able to make it to either one of them.
Yeah.
So the other one was going to die.
Yeah.
The end, when he's the fairies, he's like, yo, well, if they would have pulled the trigger, they would have killed themselves. So either way, somebody,
Yeah.
he's insane, but he's a genius.
Yeah,
He's
very
a
calculated.
yeah.
Very calculated.
I don't want. The only reason I don't want to call him a genius is because if he was a genius, he'd be successful in these things. But he's so fucking insane
It
that
gets in the way.
it gets in the
It gets
way.
in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little, just a little out there, just a little bit. But no, definitely one of the best villains in the history of comic book films. Period. I bet one of the best villains in the history of film. Let's not even just
Yeah.
contain the comic. One of the best villains in the history of film. But yeah, that's solid 4 and 5 for sure. Your 4 and 5 are both in DC. Mine are both in Marvel. Number 5, I have Captain America and Winter Soldier. I still think to this day, like after there's maybe only one or two films in the entirety of the MCU I would put ahead of this.
You messed up.
And those are arguably. What do you mean?
It's Captain America, Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier. What I say?
Captain America and the Winter Soldier, the TV show.
You got me thinking about Falcon. You're right. Captain America, Winter Soldier. That would be my number 5. You're right, because that definitely, I keep forgetting there's both at the same time now. That's like a thing with that show. I would say one of the main things about this film that really resonated with me when I first saw it, which was something that Marvel was doing very good at this time. It was making good genre films that just so happened to be TV films, or just happened to be superhero films.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like you made a good spy espionage thriller that just so happened to be starring Captain America. And Marvel had a successful formula with that, honestly, for a lot of Phase 1 and Phase 2. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, let's make a space opera comedy and make it very, very good. It just so happens to be starring Guardians of the Galaxy. You know what I'm saying? Like there was a more focus on creating a good genre film, whatever genre you were touching on, and then just creating a good story around whoever that character just so happened to be. And I thought Captain America Winter Soldier is one of the perfect examples of this. It sets up a lot of Cap's sentiments that you see going into Civil War and his later films on why he starts to become a little bit more rebellious against authority and against the established structure, because he was burned by that in this film of believing so much in the structure that was in place and then watching it crumble before him, like at every single turn. The action scenes in this film are like some of the best, if not the best, in the entirety of the MCU. The fight choreography in The Winter Soldier is second to none, in my opinion. I watched a lot of videos on how that fight choreography was put together. It was very calculated. The movements were smooth. Like it felt like, an action style hand to hand combat film. Like I said, that just so happened to be featuring superheroes. And then also, it was very cool to see the kind of the breadcrumbs that were set up throughout the MCU within this film of different characters that we've already seen and that are established to the audience being revealed as Hydra. And they weren't all big characters either,
right,
but they were characters you've seen throughout the MCU and other films, and that the audience, if you've watched these movies, would be familiar with in some capacity. And you're like, oh, dang, I didn't know. Oh, dang, he's Hydra too. Oh, dang. And you start to see a lot more characters. Like I said, they're not big characters, but you can see that there were seeds planted in these other films that were leading up to this, which I thought was very well in terms of actual planning and your storytelling that the MCU used to be good at. That's why I'll have to say, at my number 5, Captain America Winter Soldier. Like I said, Captain America has by far the best trilogy in the MCU, and this film is, to me, the best one by far, and it is the pure example of the MCU at its best. Like Captain America Winter Soldier is the pure example of the MCU at its best when it's firing on all cylinders. It understands its characters, it understands the story. And then I didn't even really touch on the best part of the film yet, really, which is Cap realizing his best friend is a villain now, and the torment that puts him through, and then ultimately having to come face to face with him and not just defeat his friend, but try to save his friend in any way that he can. There's a lot of, I thought, development within the character of Captain America within this one film, and it was, like I said, the best Captain America film that we got out of the trilogy. So that's my number five. Number
Well,
four,
don't forget.
yeah,
Um,
what else?
before you do that, don't
Yeah,
forget it. Like you said, it introduced you to a lot of characters,
yeah.
old characters, but we did
Introduce
get
them in a new way.
we got Sam Wilson in there.
That was the
We
debut of
got the
Falcon.
Falcon in there.
Yeah.
Um, and there was a point I wanted to make. Don't remember what it was, but this was one of the first movies where we got to see Captain America's actual strength.
Yes.
I'll say that. My man's
Yes.
pulled down
That
a
opening fight
helicopter.
scene,
Well, not
man.
even that one.
What?
The one where he pulled down the helicopter.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
You know,
pulled down the helicopter. I think that was Civil War
was it Civil War?
when Bucky was trying to escape from the
Damn, that
facility.
was Civil War.
Yeah, I've seen Civil War way too many times. I almost
Winter
know that movie
Soldier is the
frame.
one where they was on a boat at the beginning.
And he was
He
kicking dudes off the
kick,
boat.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay. I'm
And he was
sorry.
fighting the MMA fighter in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, yep.
Yep, but
That's when I knew that opening scene was when I was like, oh, so the fight choreography in this is about to be insane.
yeah,
And then it just stayed consistent throughout the rest of it from there.
and like you said, honestly that's my favorite Captain America movie. Like you said,
Yeah,
it's a good spy movie. You know,
yeah.
you can put any spy that we have, James Bond, Jason Bourne,
You really could put
um,
Jason. You could for sure put James
Jack
Bond in that
Bauer.
movie, and it would
Yeah.
work. Yes.
And take away all the the superpowers that he has, and he can still function. He can
Yeah.
still do these things that Captain America was doing.
Hmm.
And I think again, I just want to touch on what you said. They were really good at the genre movies
Yes.
because the spy stuff is something that it's a big part of Marvel,
Yeah.
and Shield and that legacy that they had, and we don't see that in the movies like we do the comic
Outside of
books.
this, for real. Yeah, this was the best example of it.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I'm not
Um,
counting Secret or what was it, Secret Wars? Yeah, not
Secret
Secret Wars,
Invasion.
Secret Invasion. Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, that
Because that was supposed to be a spy thriller. It was terrible.
that should have been a movie, but that's a whole nother conversation. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea to make that a TV show. So my number four is a set of films. This is a part of a set of films that were very essential to, along with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. These set of films, I think I watched probably more
Hmm.
than those. And they're very essential to like me growing up as a general nerd and especially a film nerd. But X-Men 2 is my number four film.
I knew you was gonna
Um,
say that.
yeah, best. I struggled between this and Days of Future Past being in the top five, but just because of how I think X-Men 2 includes the entirety of the original crew, and also it's more essential of a film to me. Like I said, growing up watching superhero films, this was the film that I watched a lot. And I thought this was, outside of another film that's coming up later in the list, this was Wolverine at his best. In my opinion, this was Wolverine at some of his best, especially the fight scene in the house. This was
Oh
some,
my God, when they
yes. And there's a lot of the weapon
forgot
expert.
about
I
it.
mean, William Stryker is the main villain, so Wolverine was a major focus of this film. So I thought this was Wolverine at his best, and I thought this was Ian McKellen's Magneto at his
We've already
best.
talked about this. These were
Yeah.
Wolverine movies, all right.
Yes, these
They
are
should have.
Wolverine movies.
All of
Ian
them. They
McKellen
should.
a little bit too. I
They
would contend
should have.
Ian McKellen is a very key
Yeah,
character in
he
these
was,
movies as
but
well.
they should have been called Wolverine and the X Men.
Yeah, yeah,
But
but definitely. But I
mm,
thought Ian, outside of Wolverine, I thought Ian McKellen like shined the most in this movie as Magneto. I thought his scenes were like all the scenes of him in prison, phenomenal, and then the scene of him
oh
breaking out
man, when he broke,
in the scene of him breaking out, like there's so much in this film that is just great,
he told my
and
man,
it
he said, "I
touches
can
on
smell
so
it."
much.
He
Like,
said something like that. He like, "I can smell it." Something like that. Like it's the metallic in your blood.
I was like, too much iron in your blood. Whip that boy out. I'm like,
Mm.
oh yeah, you want a different type of time, man. Yeah, Eric Lyncher wasn't playing. But I The only thing about this film that you could say is a weakness is William Stryker as the villain isn't as strong as the writing and storytelling around him. But his connection to Wolverine and the development his presence brought to Wolverine makes up for it. And I don't think Stryker was a weaker villain because his performance was bad or anything. It's just he's not a physical threat to the X-Men, and
Yeah,
he didn't bring enough physical threats along with him, I think, to the X-Men other than some tranquilizer darts and Lady Deathstrike. Like he needed another physical threat to have with him, like Sentinels or something like that.
they wouldn't have beat the X-Men at that house.
But at
they,
least have a
they
more
wouldn't
physical
have.
threat than some soldiers.
Yeah,
That
if
would have
he
been
would have
my
had
only
this,
thing.
if they would have had the Sentinels, that would have been again that it
Yeah.
made for that fight scene in the house
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
But like you said, he's not an X-Men villain. He's a Wolverine villain.
Yeah.
So like you said, if he would have had the Sentinels, or even if he would have had, if he had been working with somebody else, it would have made more sense for him to
Yeah.
do the things he was able to do.
Yeah, him walking in with the soldiers and taking over the mansion, I'm like, okay, this scene is a fire. So like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna poke holes in the logic here because this scene is fire. But like, I feel like a bunch of soldiers on foot shouldn't be able to walk in the X Mansion
No.
and take it over. I don't care who's not there. I don't care if Professor X and Cyclops aren't there. This is still the X Mansion. It's still full of mutants. Like this this shouldn't be as even as of a fight as y'all are making it out to be. But this scene is a banger, so I'm gonna let it slide. But yeah, I have X-Men 2 as my number 4. Those are my 5 and my 4.
So
2 films that were very important to me in terms of my development as a film nerd and especially a comic book film nerd.
the reason I like X2, outside of the ones that you named, like I said, I forgot all about that fight scene. That's also the same one when we got introduced to Pyro, and Bobby Drake's punk ass little brother called the police
snitching on him, man. What? That was crazy.
They shot Logan, and I'm guessing the kids didn't know Logan can't die at this point.
Yeah.
And fucking Pyro fucking woof.
He was like, oh, so that's how we playing? Bet. But yeah, I'm burning all y'all.
It's my favorite movie, one, because 2 reasons. It had 2 of my favorite characters in there. Nightcrawler, Colossus.
This is the introduction of Nightcrawler. Yep.
And Nightcrawler had a banger ass scene as the
opening of the movie. I didn't even talk about that. That opening scene with Nightcrawler in the White House, man.
I'm surprised you missed it, bro. Like it was
what?
Nightcrawler fucking killed it. And
yeah, I didn't even mention that scene.
This is just to talk about it because Stryker was behind that, correct?
Stryker was using some sort of
he was using
serum or something
to control him,
to use it on Magneto later on
so
in the
they
film, but he used it on Nightcrawler initially to try to make mutants look bad.
Yeah, so that's that whole thing where that's the only thing that gives me pause with the movie, like you said, is Stryker being the villain, him having all his access. It's like, how did he get this serum? How did he find Nightcrawler to use this serum? And he just should have had a
big
part.
On how did he like I ain't gonna lie, that's a big
I don't remember.
How did he find someone who teleports?
He got the drop on him too.
Yeah, don't poke holes in this because I love this movie.
So
the only reason that that's a plot hole is because of something the film itself sets up. If you recall, when they're trying to find Nightcrawler after that incident, they see that a mutant attacked the White House.
Mm-hmm.
They went to Cerebro and they were trying to find him, but they couldn't because he was teleporting.
Yeah,
he was teleporting too quickly, so it was difficult for Xavier to see him. So Cerebro is having a hard time picking him up.
But William
Stryker found him and cornered him and subdued him enough to be able to put a serum in him that controls his mind.
Yeah. So, and again, like I said, fucking Colossus is one of my favorite characters, which I love that he's in the Deadpool movies.
Very different type of Colossus.
Very different Colossus. Yeah. In the X-Men movie, he transforms, and that's probably one of the coolest things about it because he transforms.
That transformation scene. Yeah.
As again, while they're attacking the house. And it's crazy that you had that as your number 4 because this leads me to my number 3, Deadpool 2.
Okay.
Deadpool 2. And I throw Deadpool 2 above Deadpool and Wolverine.
I'm not mad at that. Yeah, I'm not mad at that.
Deadpool and Cable have and again, I'm not as read up on their comics. I've seen 1 or 2 of them, but I guess their comics go back, like back,
Mhm.
and just in the movie, you see. I mean, the relationship that they have in the movie, they have a love hate relationship. Um, Deb,
Deadpool seems to have that with a lot of his co-stars.
well, yeah, yeah, you're right. But the relationship was more hate from Cable, whereas
Yeah,
like you see, like you said, Wolverine, he did kind of come around to Deadpool's side in the end,
towards the
where
end,
Cable is still like, I
hated him to the
fucking
last frame of the
hate this
movie for
dude.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I hate you. You're a piece of shit, or not. You're a piece of shit, but I hate you. You're annoying as fuck. Like
yeah,
I like, but he needed him, and the Juggernaut fight scene in there was just
crazy. It's just insanity.
we got two
Shit was
completely
nuts.
CGI characters, Colossus and Deadpool, or Colossus and Juggernaut, and I don't know why I like this second one. The second one was just better overall, I'm gonna say. The writing was good. It had great pacing, which is that's the one reason that I had the only issue I had with Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine had a lot of nostalgia value in there for you. It brought a
Hmm.
lot of people back. It closed people's story, but Deadpool 2 was paced so well
Yeah,
that you didn't realize how long you were in that movie. By the time you got to the point where he fought Juggernaut, I want to say that's right after the halfway mark. And again, I forgot that it had so many people in there. We had Domino in there.
yep.
Um, you had Colossus only for a quick second because nobody would help him.
You have Brad Pitt for 2 seconds.
I think he came at the end,
Who?
Colossus, to
Colossus.
the home.
I mean, he was in the movie throughout, but
Yeah, but I don't think he really did anything this time though.
not for real. He didn't actually participate really until towards the
Um,
end.
but yeah, that's gonna be my number three. I loved it. Like I said, it's really hard for, as we've seen, comic book movies to do good sequels.
Hmm.
Um, the
Not the
Avengers,
easiest for them.
I don't know how the Avengers are doing it because they're taking a villain, and the Avengers have so many villains collectively and individually.
Hmm.
And Deadpool, dude, the villain, the villain technically was Cable at the beginning of the movie, and then it's the little boy, or it's not the little boy, but trying to stop the little boy, but it is the little boy. But then it's like the group
The
home
dude,
dude.
yeah, the group home, the dude who ran the mutant group home.
Yeah,
There was that is one thing about this movie. There was never like a clear villain,
yeah.
like a
So
clear
like,
like this is the bad guy. This film didn't really have that.
you know, so you even had, and we didn't even see it coming because that's how the movie starts at that home with
Yeah,
Deadpool in his his practice X-Men
with the
jersey,
practice X Men jersey, he on
and
the X Men practice squad.
yeah. So I was about to make another point, completely forgot what it was, but that's definitely going to be my number three. And again, I messed up because I'm doing I was doing superhero comic book instead of superhero because there's so many more movies that after you said the Incredibles that I thought about.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
Incredibles. I
meant
was like,
to
that has to be
I
on there.
meant to mention this before I started my list. I don't know if you've seen this. They're coming out with the Incredibles 3.
I don't think I did see that.
It was introduced at the
Oh wait, no, I
Disney
did. They introduced it at
D
D23. Yeah,
D23,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They did introduce that at D23. I did see
So
that. I did see that
I
poster.
want to say I believe it's next year, which I am also excited about it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I was surprised we're getting a third one. I
yeah.
thought just given how long it took for us to get to, and honestly, I never really thought we were going to get to.
Hmm.
Honestly, I was hoping for it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear they're finally going to go ahead and complete that trilogy. It took them long enough.
But yeah, Deadpool, like I said, Deadpool 2 is one of the better sequels that they have out. And it did a great job of not killing the jokes. Which
Yeah,
these three Deadpool movies, which we said Captain America it's the best trilogy in the MCU.
yeah.
Daredevil or Deadpool is probably one of the best superhero
It
trilogies
definitely is.
because
Definitely is.
it's really hard to keep those jokes up
For
and
3 straight films, that's
and for
difficult.
them to be good and relative and again not stale,
Yeah,
they're fresh every time,
yeah,
and it's so just it's keeping in the spirit of Deadpool.
hmm
Because if you read a Deadpool comic book, you've seen any of the animated series with Deadpool, that's all he does. He cracks jokes. And
yeah,
he lives a very sad fucking life, again, which they've touched on in every single one of them.
yeah. They touch on that in the films, I think, very well.
So that's why Deadpool is my number three, or Deadpool 2 is my number three. Like I said, I shuffled my list around a lot. Deadpool 2 might not be my number three next week, but this week it is.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and give us your number two. I'll go ahead and
My
give
number
my three
two.
and two after that. Yeah.
All right, so you touched on number two a little bit already.
Okay.
It's going to be I'm tripping. Daredevil, but it's going to be Daredevil season two. Um,
Specifically, season two.
Specifically
Okay.
season two.
You have good
It's
taste.
it's really hard. It's really hard to compare movies and TV shows.
Very, very difficult.
Because movies where TV shows can I'm sorry, movies can get straight to the point, had that climax,
Hmm
had that good ending. TV shows have multiple,
Yeah.
because they want to keep you coming back for each episode. While Daredevil had season one had that that amazing fucking hallway fight scene in the first one,
That's some of the best. That's some of
and
the best fight
they
choreography I've ever
came
seen in my
back
life.
in the second season with that prison fight scene with the fucking Punisher, and
There's
and
so much in that season, bro. That's just like insane. The fight scene between Punisher and Daredevil. The man.
we got introduced to Stick in that season as well, correct? Yeah, we got
I'm trying to remember if he was in season one or not. It's been a while since I've
he
seen
was
this
in
show.
he might have been, but
He had a more
he
prominent role in
he
season
had a
two, because I
prominent
remember
role in
him more
season
in
two. That's
season
what it
two than I
was.
do in season one.
But we
He had to
also
have been in season one because he's too important to the
Yep.
development of Daredevil as like his training.
But we also got introduced to Elektra in season two. She
Yeah.
wasn't in season one. I do know
No,
that.
yeah, she wasn't. She definitely wasn't.
We got introduced to Elektra in season two. And again, we already know how those Fox movies were shit. Elektra, Daredevil, terrible,
Yeah.
terrible, terrible, terrible. Um, I'm actually surprised. Well, and again, these were done by Netflix at the time, but
hmm
I think it was still done under the supervision of
Yeah, it
what's
was. They
guys
were like loosely based
what's
in the
Buddy's name?
MCU.
The head Marvel
Not
Studios.
so. Actually, when these were little tidbit on how Marvel was working at the time, there was. I'm forgetting the individual's name, but there was an individual who was above Kevin Feige
Kevin
initially when
Feige.
they were starting the MCU, and him and Kevin Feige started butting heads, and Disney basically said, "Well, the reason the MCU is going well is because of Kevin Feige, not you." The person who's butting heads with. So they took the person over Kevin Feige and basically said, "You go over here and focus on the TV shows and let Kevin Feige work." So they were like loosely based in the MCU, but they
Yeah.
weren't really being ran by Kevin Feige. They were being ran by somebody else. That's why it's like you heard them reference
Okay.
the
I
MCU a
know he
little
just
bit,
had
but
he
it's
had
like it
producer
felt like
credits though
yeah, but it's like if you watch the Netflix shows, it felt like they operated like on the
in a
peripheral
whole
of the
different world.
MCU a little bit. Even, but
Yeah.
like they would make references a little bit, like oh yeah, the big green guy. You know what I'm saying? They would like make slight little references like that, but they wouldn't do anything direct.
And we definitely have to touch on the MCU as a whole later, because they've just they're adding these things back to the MCU, including Agents of Shield, um, Cloak and Dagger. You know, a lot of these things that were not part of the MCU originally. When we talk about the MCU, we're mostly talking about we're talking about the movies,
Yeah,
and then things became spinoff. But like I said, Daredevil season two, man. It was a what did they call it? A backdoor pilot to the Punisher.
yeah.
It was a backdoor pilot to Elektra, I'm pretty sure, but again, they can't throw all the Netflix, Marvel shows off Netflix, so a lot of
hmm
that stuff didn't happen. But again, we got the Punisher's entire backstory in there.
Essentially, yeah.
His
They
entire
went a little more in
backstory.
depth in his show, but a lot of it came in
You
that second
know,
season of Daredevil.
Karen was doing a lot to help him figure out what's going on.
Hmm.
And I want to say like five of the episodes was about him or having to deal with him. And as soon as you think he's gone, he comes back at the end and he helps Matt with I don't remember the guy's name. It was the ninja dude because he kicked him off. He like kicked him off the roof or something, and they
The
thought he was
dude from
dead.
The Hand, yes.
Yeah, he kicked him off the roof,
Yeah,
thought he was
yeah.
dead, and Frank
The
shows up
Hand in
last
that
minute and
second
just fucking
season,
brutal.
man, there's a lot in that second season of Daredevil. I think that's a phenomenal second choice. Some of the things that we got in that second season built on the lore of that character so much. Like the Hand in that second season was crazy, which is pained me to see how they ruined them in some of the other shows after that.
I knew you were going to say that, which is
But-
why I knew you were going to say that, and I am rewatching all of the Marvel shows right now,
Mhm.
and I'm on a one that is the least respected, the least liked.
So you're watching Iron Fist.
I'm watching.
So you're watching Iron Fist. Okay.
I'm watching Iron Fist.
I don't know why you're doing that to yourself, but all right.
I will say
ahead. I'll
Iron
let you
Fist
cook.
got so much more hate than it deserved to get. It
No,
really
it got
did.
the
No.
correct amount of hate.
It had it. We didn't like it. Danny Rand is a white man. He's been a white man. He's
Okay.
had some Asian heritage, which that's where the shit talking started. They thought that this Iron Fist
Was
this
Asian.
Everybody they want him to be Asian, and we know what crowd that was. Again,
Mhm.
these fucking super liberals.
Yeah.
It overall, the worst thing about Iron Fist
Was the writing?
was
Go ahead,
Iron
I'm gonna let you
Fist.
cook. Well, yeah, that too.
Because I'm watching it, and while I'm watching it, I think they moved a little too fast with him showing his powers and everything and all that stuff.
He was
but
very cringeworthy.
He very cringeworthy. Like I said, his acting is the worst thing about it. The writing.
Yeah.
Honestly, the writing was not that bad. When you look back at, and I only bring that up because the last episode I watched with the Hand, Danny showed because Harold Meacham
Yeah.
is being controlled by the Hand and this and this.
Mhm.
And honestly, you see how terrifying they are in Iron Fist because in Daredevil, you get a lot more backstory to them, or at least this century-long war and all this.
Yeah.
And Iron Fist, he's like he doesn't mention it at first, and then I think he comes back to the penthouse one day, and it's just a hand it's a print hand on the window. He goes to clean it off. It's on the outside of the window. It's like, yo, my man's is like 30 stories up. But in the last episode I watched, Harold shows up, talks to somebody from the Hand, and somebody had punched Joy. They tried to kidnap her, somebody else.
Yeah.
And they tell him like, hey, we seen what happened. We seen who did it. We was watching him. And he asked for a favor. And before that, you already see Danny. He tells them like, yo, what does the Hand want with you? This big ass gang, they about to kill him or try to.
Mhm.
He say the Hand, they disappear. Everybody's terrified. So, all these underworld gangs, they know about the Hand, and they're not saying shit.
Yeah.
Same thing with Daredevil. Was that Daredevil? That was Daredevil season 1 when they was fighting Matt, and they were working for Wilson Fisk, who's working for the Hand.
Mhm.
He don't know what the fuck he doing. Dude, again, I don't even know why I went off this tangent because I knew you was gonna say that about. I knew you was gonna say that about
just
the shows
like,
and the Hand.
Though, like to your point, and then Daredevil season 2, the Hand was done so well. They were shrouded in. You didn't know too much about them unless you read the comics. Like within that show, you didn't know too much about them. They were shrouded in a little bit of mystery, but you understood how much of a threat they were.
But that's their fault. And like I said, I think that's a timing fault. Maybe they should have had Iron Fist first because, like I said, listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying.
That would have cooked them.
You're right. It would have cooked the whole thing.
That would have cooked them from the start. No,
but
at least Daredevil season 2, you were excited.
The way that Daredevil did it, they like I said, it did it so well.
Yeah.
And then when they tried to cover it, like that's the Wilson Fisk is the main villain in Daredevil, in
Yeah.
all of them. It doesn't matter who he's fighting at this time. Wilson Fisk is the main villain, and Iron Fist, it's the hand. And like you said, you already learned things about the hand. Now you learn a little more with Iron Fist, but also he's been away for fucking 10 years, so he
Yeah.
doesn't know shit about the hand in
Mhm.
New York. He didn't even know that the hand was there at first.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I'm rewatching it. The writing isn't as strong for a number of reasons, but I think the main thing that killed that show was him as actor.
Yeah. No, that.
He was not good. He was very
Yeah.
cringy.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
That
should
was the
have
main
kept
thing that killed it.
they should have kept him at fucking Game of Thrones as a secondary character.
Yeah, he didn't even make it out of Game of Thrones either.
He got killed by a dragon. He burned
got killed by the,
dragon fire. That's what it was when he blew up the church.
Yeah, the nitrate fire, whatever they call it, that green stuff. Yeah.
So, and again, the fight scene, it's so many good fight scenes in there with Matt Murdock or Daredevil and the Punisher. That fight scene with them on the roof, and then again, that fight scene with him in the fucking hallway of the prison, dude, was
crazy.
I didn't think they were going to get a better fight scene from that first season, and they
just
did.
Pure brutality. Like, you just want to see somebody lose their mind real quick,
dude. I remember when it came out, man. I remember seeing that shit online. If you was on Twitter, that shit was like every 3 or 4 posts.
That scene?
Was that scene a different part of that scene? It was amazing. Like I said, no one thought they were going to top that first hallway fight scene with Matt Murdock or Daredevil. He wasn't even Daredevil yet, the Devil of Hell's Kitchen in that hallway. But they did, and they absolutely fucking killed it. And what's the guy's name? Jon Bernthal.
Yep.
The same way people say I don't see anybody else playing Iron Man, I do not see anybody else playing anyone else as today playing the Punisher and being that good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've had a number of Punishers.
We've had way too many Punishers. We've had too many Punishers.
That's my number 2.
That's a solid 3 and 2. I'll go ahead and run through my 3 and 2. I won't spend too much time on the 2 just because we've talked about that film a little bit. Spoiler alert, I guess. But my number 3 is Avengers: Infinity War. And I put that on here just because for the longest time I didn't think that film was possible. Like, genuinely. I was one of the people initially, like, I was excited when the concept of the MCU was announced. Granted, I'm a little kid, right? So I'm like, oh, when at the end of Iron Man, when you see that scene and Nick Fury turn around, I'm like, oh, we get an Avengers movie. And then we got the first Avengers movie, which showed me like, okay, you can do a superhero team up and make it work. Granted, that film is focusing on 4 characters plus Black Widow and Hawkeye. But like it's essentially focusing on 4 characters.
Come on, man. Don't do Hawkeye like that, because Hawkeye was a central part of that movie.
No, he wasn't.
What?
Bro, he was a mind controlled bad guy for like the first hour.
Exactly.
He wasn't a central part of that movie. No,
Hawkeye was the reason Loki was able to do all the shit he was able to do, because Hawkeye had all of this information.
To an extent. I mean, Loki had an Infinity Stone. I mean, like,
I'm saying though, like,
regardless.
But how much longer would it take for him to find somebody with top secret clearance?
Not long, because your boss is Thanos, so you better produce, young brother. Not long at all. With Thanos tell you to do something, you better do it. And
first of all,
figure it out at all.
But first of all, time was on his side until he lost.
It was.
We also don't know how long,
his conquest of Earth was supposed to be.
Well, how long it was supposed to be, and how long from the time that he stole the Tesseract, to the time they invaded New York.
Yeah.
They again, which I'm glad they didn't do, because I would have been like, well, damn, so Clint was missing for 4 months and they ain't say shit.
Didn't nobody beat?
Like, it wasn't no APB on him. The cops wasn't looking for him. Something, so we just don't know. That's why I say that.
Yeah, but still, I'm gonna say that first Avengers movie was the 4 core team featuring Black Widow and Hawkeye. But even within that, right, that's not that many characters really focus
Iron Man,
on.
Captain America, Hulk, Thor. Okay.
Yeah, like you're really only focusing on 4 characters, and then even the grander scheme of that, you're really only focusing on 2,
Two.
because the general MCU from the entire Infinity Saga is Iron Man and Captain America's
Iron Man,
story.
Captain
They're the
America.
central characters, right? So you have something to focus on to ground that film, even though it's really the first film of its time, and you're taking. We've had superhero team up movies before, because you had your X-Men, Fantastic Four, right? But this is the first time you're taking 4 solo characters who all have their own solo properties and trying to put them together in one film.
Don't
That's the
call
first time we've seen this.
It is, but don't call Fantastic Four a team up film.
I mean, that's a team.
They're a team. That's not a team up, bro. They're always on teams. A team up.
X-Men is always on teams. I'm saying that's
Let's not do that.
We've seen superhero.
That's not a team.
We've seen superhero team movies before. That concept has existed, but something like this, where you're taking different characters,
a good one.
Yeah, I mean X-Men. Yeah, X-Men. Yes.
But again, we already talked about this. When those came out, they were good to the masses.
Yeah.
Comic book fans hated that shit.
Yeah, well, comic book fans will find a reason to hate anything.
You're true. You're right. You're right.
And those movies are like actually solid.
I don't like X. The first one, the two was a banger.
Yeah, two was good. 2 was good. But I think that to get back to Infinity War, because we're kind of getting off, but the reason why I think Infinity War was so like phenomenal for me is, like I said, I didn't think that movie would be possible. I really want to commend the Russo brothers for that, because I think I want people to understand how difficult it is to make a film focusing on that many characters and to do them all justice.
Yeah,
like I can't really think of anyone in Infinity War. Star-Lord notwithstanding, like I can't really think of any character in Infinity War that was like, oh yeah, this movie kind of dicked you, bro. Like they ain't really do you right. Like Star-Lord, like yeah,
they definitely dicked him.
Like you know what I'm saying. Like
they should have had Thanos win another way.
Yeah, like they kind of made him look real shitty. But the rest of the characters in that movie, I thought all had strong moments. They all had their moment to shine at some point. And also,
you know who else they dicked? I'm sorry.
Who?
Gamora.
Even her, no, because her scenes were very important and very impactful.
Her
scenes are like vital to that story.
I hated that they killed her. I hated that. That's how you got.
I loved it actually. Someone key characters needed to die in that movie.
You're not wrong.
Key characters needed to die in that movie, so I didn't have a problem with them killing Gamora. And them killing Gamora did a lot for who I think the actual main villain of Infinity War was, which is Thanos. Infinity War is Thanos' movie.
More people should have died by Thanos.
I mean, everyone.
Not the vanishing shit, because they came back and they told them
they said permanently died.
Yeah, they said, because they said in the end game,
we really only got Vision. Really,
they said anybody that died, we can't bring them back.
Yeah,
only people that died to the snap.
Yeah,
and it was only Vision and Gamora.
Yeah, essentially. And I'd like even Gamora, not really, because we have a different version of Gamora now.
That's a different.
But that Gamora is the original Gamora is dead. So yes, I will give them that.
So
it's the old comic book trope of like, yeah, we're gonna bring them back. It ain't really them, but we can still have this character.
And I want to agree with you. I said that's a team up. We had the Guardians of the Galaxy, we had the X-Men, we had Spider-Man, we had Doctor Strange, Black Panther. And again, technically, we had 2 different teams of Avengers. So
there were so many characters that all the Avengers couldn't even interact with each other in this movie.
They were fighting on
that many characters,
and they were fighting a war on two fronts at the time.
Yeah,
and man, that was
crazy. It was the reason why I think that one of the main concerns I had with Avengers Infinity War when it was about to be announced, I was like, I'm so excited for this movie. But man, I know I've seen y'all do it with the first 2 Avengers, but this is a lot of characters, y'all. It's a lot of characters. How are you going to do this? And I thought the way they handled it was perfect. It's instead of trying to tell the story through the lens of all these characters, since we've spent literally the past 18 or 19, however many movies they had at that point, so we spent all these movies building up to Thanos. Let's just make it his story. Like Infinity War is Thanos' movie. He's the main character of that movie, and we'll use him as the driving engine. And then the heroes are, yes, important, but they're there mainly as more of a team, and we're not necessarily going to pick one hero to focus on. We're going to make Thanos the focus. And I thought they did that very, very well. Thanos is, I think, the best MCU villain we've gotten. Josh Brolin killed that role. And then the fight scene on, I'm forgetting the name of Thanos' home planet, Titan.
Titan.
The fight scene on Titan. I know a lot of people talk about the fight scene in Wakanda when Thor comes back. That scene is good. I thought the fight scene that had the most tension in it, and the fight scene that felt like it had the most stakes, was the fight scene on Titan with Tony and the Guardians.
He didn't have the ring.
Strange.
He didn't have all of them yet.
Yeah, like that was the scene. That was the fight scene that I thought, like, to me, like, had me on the edge of my seat the most and had me the most engaged and worried, honestly, for the heroes. I was expecting more than one Avenger to not make it out of that fight. And granted, they did get vanished, but like, I meant, like, legitimately not making it out of that fight.
I definitely wanted more people. Again, I wanted more people to die to give it more of a consequence feel.
Yeah.
But the opening of that movie, when you see the power of Thanos, when he
starts off rip going crazy.
He getting you like, oh yeah, the Hulk fucking him up. He beating the shit out of him.
Boy, that boy gave him a 3-piece combo, no biscuit.
He started dodging and
And then Batista bombed him. I'm like, what's going on, man?
He started boxing that nigga, dog. like he was in a ring.
Yeah, that boy turned into Terrence Crawford for sure. That was crazy to watch. And I knew it was bad because obviously Loki gives the iconic line, "We have a Hulk." Hulk comes out, does his thing. One of the members of the Black Order, the big one, walks up. Ebony Maw's like, "Nah, he got it. Chill out, bro. What you doing? Like, you know this is green, no pun intended. Like, you know he got it, man. That boy
let him have his fun, man.
Let him have his fun. He's like, yeah, let me stop playing. Grab Hulk's arms, push it off of him, and then just got to work and laid dog out. That was like, okay. And keep in mind, he only has one Infinity Stone at this point. So this isn't like super powered up, full Infinity Gauntlet at full power Thanos. He only has one Infinity Stone. And without using it, pieces up the Hulk and lays him out. Like, that's when I think that was the perfect way to introduce him to the audience as like, whoa.
As a
like we need to worry about this one.
Because he had already beat the shit out of Thor and
yeah, like you don't even see him beating up Thor. You just see Thor the scene opens and Thor's already beaten. Yeah. Like the movie opens and Thor's already on his knees. He like dust all on his face. He hunched over. Like the scene opens, Thor's already fucked up. And the MCU up to that point had built Hulk up as he's the strongest Avenger.
The strongest.
He's by far the strongest Avenger. Like,
he beat that boy so bad.
Beat him up.
He did
seconds.
not come. We have not seen the Hulk since
that scene. You have not seen that original Hulk without the Bruce Banner fusion since that scene.
You have not seen him.
You have not seen him since that scene. Thanos got him.
He will not.
Thanos got him up out of there. Thanos pieced him up so bad he has not been in the MCU since then. Bruce Banner had to combine with him and get consciousness through him.
We had that weak ass Hulk.
Yeah, we got weak Hulk now, and thanks to Thanos. So even though I'm disappointed at the Hulk we got now, I think that is very good long-term storytelling on how powerful Thanos is. We still ain't got the original Hulk back.
Still ain't.
He still ain't
bro,
back.
You see him trying to come out. He's like, no.
No, he was like, man, well, you saw what that boy did. You go fight him. You go fight him. I'm not doing that again.
Which again, I know there have been comics where the Hulk he didn't want to come out, but it wasn't like he was scared to come out.
This one he was scared.
He was fucking scared.
He was like, terrified. I'm good on that, bro. I'm good on that. You see what you saw what Buddy just did? Nah, bro, I'm straight. You got it. You got it, Bruce. You go fight his ass then. I'm good.
You got this.
Yeah, you got it.
Since you want control, right?
You got it. Yeah, right. You want control so bad. You go ahead and fight him then. I'm good. I'm cool. So yeah, Avengers Infinity War is my number 3. Some of the MCU's best work, in my opinion. I don't have Endgame on this list, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm just go ahead and say it. I like Endgame. It's a really good movie.
There,
but I thought Infinity War was the culmination of everything we had been waiting on in the MCU, and it delivered flawlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, I'm not going to spend too much time on because we've already discussed it a lot, but it's The Dark Knight.
And I'm sorry, I would have took that off in my 4.
No, it's cool, and I mean, The Dark Knight is one of those films that's so universally beloved, even outside of comic book fans.
Yeah.
Like outside of the superhero film community, like regular film
People like it.
people love that movie. I knew this film was different when I heard Mildred Gaddis talking about it on my way to school. My mom used to listen to Mildred Gaddis on the radio. I heard Mildred Gaddis talking about how good this movie is. So, like, you know what I'm saying? That's when I understood, like, oh, okay, this movie's making a bigger impact outside of just like people like me who are nerds.
Yeah.
Like, this is being recognized as one of them ones. And then obviously Heath Ledger, you know, getting nominated and winning Best Supporting Actor at the Academy Awards as well, at a time where the Oscars really had no interest in anything superhero related. Like, this is before Black Panther getting nominated for Best Picture. The Oscars didn't want to touch superhero movies at this time
because it wasn't seen as serious cinema.
Yeah, this movie was so good. They was like, we got to acknowledge this one at least a little bit. It didn't get nominated for Best Picture, which I thought was just the dumbest thing ever.
I don't remember what else came out that year, but
I'd have to go back and remember. But I do remember looking at the list of Best Picture nominees from that year and going, Dark Knight probably should have been on here. Should it have won is a different argument. But it should have been recognized. You know what I'm saying? Especially if Black Panther is going to get nominated damn near 10 years later after that. I think we can all agree this is a superior film. I think there's a lot in this film about how to create a perfect Batman movie as far as tone, as far as understanding the character of Batman, as far as understanding Gotham and the type of city it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot in this film that felt very grounded and very real and gave you a very real threat to the Joker just in the writing alone. And then on top of that, Heath Ledger's performance is what it is.
Shit, a threat, not even just a threat to Gotham, a threat to Batman. When he's they're trying to find out, you know, I want to know who Batman is. And the fucking the guy that works there, that works at Wayne Enterprise, is like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna tell. And Joker's like,
extort him. I think I'm gonna try to blackmail him.
And Joker like, no, I don't want to know who Batman is. and you know, so somebody looking outside, you know, unfortunately we lost Heath Ledger before he come back for another movie, because if you don't read comics or you don't watch the cartoons, then you don't really know the relationship that the Joker has with Batman. He's just a maniac, but he loves the Batman.
He has a reliance on him.
Yeah, that is his, like, that's his soulmate.
Yeah. For lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But it is really like that kind of relationship. Like, Joker really relies on Batman in a sense.
And Batman, not the person behind the mask,
but the concept of Batman, that figure that is supposed to be a symbol of hope. When I'm an agent of chaos, I like to breed chaos. What better way to do that than destroy what is a symbol of hope to a lot of people? You need that symbol. You need to be able to destroy that symbol in order to bring about the chaos you want to bring. But yeah, I would say, like I said, not to get too deep into it because we already spent some time on that. But Dark Knight is my number 2. I'll let you go ahead with your number 1, your final top one, and then I'll go ahead.
Okay. Excuse me. We might have to do another show. We might have to do a show just on that one, man. Go back and rewatch that because it's just fire. I mentioned the Watchmen movie in my bottom 5. In my top 5, my number 1. Again, my number 1 is always going to change because a week ago it was The Dark Knight Rises. A week before that it was The Dark Knight. This week it is going to be Watchmen, the TV show, because this show came out and the first episode was fire, and it was crazy because you like,
that was a hell of a way to open up a superhero show.
We not expecting this. First of all,
I was like, whoa, what about watching?
Every nigga that watched that show was not thinking, man, oh, this about to be some shit.
I was like, that opening scene, I was like, oh, this kind of, oh yeah, your room trying to destroy you over there. What's going on?
I bumped the little Funko Pop.
Which Funko Pop is that?
This is 13th Battalion Trooper from Star Wars. It knocked over my little, I don't know if you played Destiny. It broke a few pieces off my Guardian.
I actually haven't played Destiny. I need to though.
I'm gonna have to get this together. But no, we're not expecting it to open with a history lesson.
Yeah, very graphic and brutal history.
Very graphic, very brutal. And they didn't really explain it for
At all.
until
It
like
was
the
just
end of the episode. It might have been the
what?
next episode that they explained it.
It
So
took them
you
a minute to
watching it and
explain
you
why that scene
like,
was in there. Yes.
and just everything that happened in that first episode, even
Yeah.
with I forgot what they called themselves, but the guys that wore the Rorschach mask,
Yeah.
They
I think
killed the cop
the officers, like, that's when they were hiding their identity.
Yeah, because they killed the cop at the beginning,
Yeah.
and it's just so much that happened in that show, like I said, and and for a mini series, and it was something that a lot of comic book movies haven't been doing, or weren't doing, is it's a completely new story.
Yeah.
It wasn't based off of anything, They when they wrote that completely new, continuing from the comic books.
Yeah.
So it was great. And you seen old characters. They I forget her name. The Spectre or something, maybe Silk Spectre.
Silk Spectre, yeah.
She's an FBI agent now. She's
yeah. You had Ozymandias in there. It's crazy.
Yeah, Ozymandias in there. You got fucking people was like, oh, I seen that coming. Who knew that was fucking Martian Man? Not Martian Man. Dr. Manhattan.
No, I ain't gonna lie. If you thought and I'm blanking on the actor's name right now. I want to make sure I get it right. It's the same one who plays Black Manta in
Damn, I forgot about it. The first Aquaman.
Yeah, he plays Black Manta in Aquaman, and I think Aquaman 2, but I never watched Aquaman 2. So
I'm trying not to watch it, but I'm going to. I know I am.
Yahya Abdul-Mateen. That's the actor's name. But yeah, no, I was wondering too, watching the show. I was like, okay, we're getting a lot of older characters from Watchmen, but we're not getting like the character, like.
But again, we thought he was on Mars, so
But I was I'm thinking, I feel like Dr. Manhattan should be in this show.
So
and he was mentioned in the show, like he's mentioned throughout the show. I'm like, you can't keep mentioning a character like that and then not show us Dr. Manhattan.
All
in the show
I was
that you're
thinking was, why are we focusing on this cop? Yeah. What's so again? And I love Regina King. I love Regina King. I love all the Reginas. But I'm wondering, like, why are we focusing on her?
Yeah.
Why is her story so important? And then you like, okay, well, it's because they're not talking about the Watchmen at all. This don't really had nothing. It has to do with the concept of the Watchmen. From their stories, from what they did in whatever the 80s, 90s. From what they did. This is where they come from, and. From the beginning, from the first episode, with I think that's her grandfather or somebody related to her. Mm-hmm. She knew the guy.
Yeah.
But either way, you still like, okay, why her? Why focus on her? And at the end, by the end of the series, you realize why, because Dr. Manhattan decided he was coming back he's gonna come back, kick it on Earth, and he wanted to be a black man.
Yeah. Yeah, it was there was like a few things leading up to that scene where I was like, I feel like they about to make him, but I don't know. That just feels too far fetched. And then he turned blue. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, you like why? Because why? Why would you? Again, this is why no one knows who Superman is.
Yeah.
Because and I think Lex Luthor asked the question. He said, why would a god, or why would he didn't call Superman a god because he don't like God, but somebody did call him a god. Why would he pretend to be you?
Exactly,
why would he? He could be somebody like me. Lex Luthor saying that he could be somebody like me. Why would he be you? And that's why nobody knows. Everybody thinks Superman is going to be some high profile guy, and he's just some reporter.
Yeah, and just a journalist, just a regular journalist.
Same thing with Dr. Man. Who's expecting him to be this nigga?
Just a regular, damn near stay-at-home dad.
He's a white man. Like,
that's another thing. I was like, Dr. Manhattan is not black.
Hey, hold on. So was he in blackface?
Is that technically blackface? Technically, that is blackface.
My man's
doing blackface.
That's wild.
Technically, that man put on that. That's the most authentic. He put on the most authentic blackface you've ever seen. Yes,
but
Dr. Manhattan put on the most authentic blackface you will ever.
But
see. That's a hell of a way to look at it.
They managed to make. They managed to make a superhero TV show
Hmm.
That was it was good. You know, it kept the spirit of the original comic book, along with it being culturally relevant
Yeah.
with similar things that's going on during the time. You know, we were seeing a rise of these um, right wing, anti black, anti everything, pro white extremist groups. You
Hmm.
know, and
This show was definitely a response to that. It
it,
felt like a response to
you
that.
know, and again, that's what the Watchmen are. So
Yeah.
you know, it was great to see something because you're not seeing that as much anymore.
Hmm.
Uh, and when I'm sorry, you do see it, but when you're seeing it, you're seeing it in more serious things. You're seeing an
Hmm.
episode of Law and Order SVU where
Yeah,
they
yeah,
like, oh
yeah,
yeah, he hate all black people, this and this, and you know, he raped this person, and you know, it's really you know, and
yeah,
again, it's dark either way, but it's not as dark because it's fiction.
yeah. This is based in a completely fictional
Yeah,
world.
like
Yeah,
it's not a fucking blue man running around exploding people by looking
yeah,
at them and
yeah,
pointing his finger.
yeah,
You know, so like I said, they do a really good job. Like I said, the Watchmen, the movie is on my top 10, and it will always be on my top 10
yeah,
because they copy that comic book one for one perfectly. But this show, and it's not a lot of updated things that keep the spirit. Because, like I said, you watch The Dark Knight, or I'm sorry, you watch Batman Begins, and you not watch The Batman, and that's two completely different films.
yeah.
Not saying one's better than the other, which
They're different.
I think the Batman is better than Batman Begins, but
Yeah, I can roll with that.
I
Yeah,
think The Dark
I
Knight
agree
is
with
better
that.
than the Batman. But
Yeah.
it's two completely different movies. You
Hmm.
know, Batman, two completely different movies. You
Yeah.
know, even when you look at, you know, if you say looking at the original Flash TV show and the Hulk from fucking the 70s and 80s and the CW shows to the movies that we have, it's not the same. The spirit is different. But the
Yeah.
spirit of Watchmen has always been superheroes are flawed. The world they live
Very.
in is flawed.
Yeah.
And that's what the TV show managed to continue doing.
Yes, yeah, it conveyed that very well. Yeah, definitely, I'm with you on that. That Watchmen miniseries was phenomenal. I was not really expecting the direction that it took. It was
At
definitely, yeah,
all.
I was not expecting the direction it took at all. It definitely caught me off guard. But once I got settled into like, all right, this is something different. This is a new story. It has Watchmen characters in it, and it references the comic, but this is a new and original story. And
Hmm.
I once I saw they were going with it, they did a phenomenal job. Regina King killed it. There's a lot in that show to like. So solid number one, definitely. Definitely a solid list overall on your end. My number one, going back to Marvel, not the MCU though.
Spider Man.
Um, no, 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 no. Not definitely not Spider Man. This is I had a hard time between this film and The Dark Knight.
Okay.
Um, I acknowledge how great The Dark Knight is. I don't want to disrespect how great The Dark Knight is. But there was a very long time after watching this movie where I went, that might be the best superhero movie I've ever seen in my entire life, and that's Logan. Um,
Okay.
Logan was, I think, the perfect, and obviously we've seen what Deadpool and Wolverine did to the legacy of that movie, and I don't care if that movie's great. But
He defiled
Logan,
him.
yeah, Logan at the time, prior to
Yeah.
Fox getting bought by Disney, like, so because obviously Disney buying Fox changes obviously the legacy of Logan because it's owned by a different company now. But at the time, prior to Disney buying Fox, and at the time we believed this was going to be Hugh Jackman's last performance as Wolverine, that was the perfect send off. And I was actually very happy that they finally decided to make it rated R because it was
Yeah.
Wolverine is that kind of character. He's not, yeah, he can
Not a
work in a
PG
PG,
13.
he can work in a PG-13 format, but you're not going to get the full Wolverine that
Yeah.
you could get unless you make it a rated R film. And I'm glad they finally decided to do it here. You see an old, battered down Wolverine. His healing factor is not working as well. We're in the future. Mutants are damn near extinct. Charles Xavier is the world's most powerful mind with dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever it is he's dealing with. So he has these episodes where he essentially puts everyone in the, the mind pause that he puts everyone in, but it's more intense and he can kill people with it because he's not in control of his mind. And Wolverine is essentially his primary caregiver. Like when you see Wolverine to open this movie, he's down bad. It's the most
Yeah.
down bad you've really seen Wolverine
He's a limo
across.
driver.
Yeah, like he's a limo driver. He's very down bad to start this movie. And then to see Laura come in and to see him kind of like Wolverine's always kind of been like a hero, but like a reluctant hero. Like
Yeah.
Wolverine's never been the type to jump in and be
A
like, "Oh, I'm gonna
reluctant,
go."
I say a
Yeah,
reluctant protector because
yeah, a reluctant
that's what he's
protector.
been every
Yeah,
time.
he's a reluctant protector. He likes to say like, "No, I just want to be to myself. I don't want to be bothered." But usually, with his heart, he can't help it. He ends up jumping in to help because that's just who he is. And then especially seeing that Laura is like him, she has a healing factor. She was obviously a product of some level of the Weapon X program. So to see the dynamic they were able to create, sort of a parent-child dynamic, but also to be able to see X-23 in a film for the first time as well, and how good she was with the foot claws and everything. Like there was a lot of really cool things about her character, and her fight scenes were actually very effective. There was a lot in this movie that I thought made it the perfect send off for the character of Logan, who we had been following since 1999 or 2000, whenever that first
Mm-hmm.
X-Men movie came out. I thought even though the villains in this movie weren't necessarily straightforward, right? Like there wasn't like a one central person. The villains in this movie were strong and menacing and were actually a threat to Logan in this state, right?
You
Like
thought
you're
he was
dealing
going
with
to die.
yeah, like you're dealing with a weaker Logan. This isn't the same Wolverine from the earlier X-Men movies. Or like he's a weaker Wolverine at this point. So when he runs into Donald Pierce, like it's like, oh, like what I'm saying? There's actually a little bit more of an even fight than it should be because you're dealing with the
Mm-hmm.
weaker Wolverine. When he runs into X-24, it's like, oh, this is a mismatch. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of scenes in here where Wolverine was fighting I'm not gonna say a lot of scenes, but there were scenes in here where
He
Wolverine
was
was
at a
fighting at a
disadvantage.
disadvantage, which is not something you're used to seeing from this character. Like the only time you've really seen Wolverine fight at a disadvantage is against Magneto for obvious reasons. But
I'm
like
even say
in turn,
Sabretooth.
no, not
Not
really.
this last one, no.
Yeah, I was like, not
Saber,
really, no.
not the Deadpool and the Wolverine, but Sabretooth. Oh, movie wise, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I was like, movie wise, no. Like in the comics, it's a different story. Movie wise,
Yeah,
Sabretooth has not been a threat to
no,
Wolverine. Like this was really the first time in the films you saw Wolverine from anyone other than Magneto actually be like, oh, you might not have this one, gang. Like
yeah,
you might not make it out of this. You know what I'm saying? And then to see like the development, not even just the development, but the torment that Charles Xavier and Wolverine were under in this film, and the way they described it was actually very heartbreaking. They don't outright say it, but you hear. I don't know if you remember. There's a scene. This is the scene where Charles Xavier dies when he thinks it's actually Wolverine coming into the room. It's actually X-24. When he starts talking about, "Hey, Logan, I remember what happened that day. It's starting to come back to me. Like I remember what happened." Like they're loosely referencing that Charles Xavier, because of his condition
mm-hmm.
and what he had going on, killed the other X-Men. They don't outright say it, but it's
Right.
very very implied. And you see it through his character and the way like Wolverine is. It feels like Wolverine's almost like trying to protect him, not just from like not just protect other people, but like literally protect him from himself. Throughout this film, and I thought that the way they set up this very dystopian, broken down world, but then also give the characters a very heartbreaking story in of themselves that they can bond over, I thought was very powerful, and it made the relationship between Charles and Logan in this film that much stronger. And honestly, there's really nothing as far as any other X-Men film that I've seen that depicts Wolverine at his peak like Logan
Mm-hmm.
does. And I thought storytelling wise, character wise, writing wise, in terms of bringing in the right kinds of characters for this film, there's not a lot of mutants in here. But the mutants that are in here make sense for what this film is. Caliban makes sense in this world. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not bringing in your S tier mutants.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is a very as grounded as an X-Men movie can be, because you're still dealing with an X-Men movie, but as grounded and as personal and as dark and as real as an X-Men film can be, Logan accomplished that completely flawlessly across the board, in my opinion, which is why it's my number one comic book film for me.
I'll definitely have to go back and watch it. Like I said, the one of the biggest parts that I do remember of that movie though is the fact that he killed. That we're working off of the assumption that he killed the X-Men.
Yeah, it's,
You
it's
know,
implied. They don't like I said, they don't
um,
come out and say it, but it's strongly implied that that's what
but now
happened.
that we're thinking about it, I'm not. You're talking about it in detail. All I'm thinking about is Deadpool and Wolverine's they retconned it a bit because
They did, but they didn't though, because
did he because he's the anchor, right, to
supposedly the
Deadpool's
anchor
rule.
being, yes.
But what year was it in
Yeah,
Logan?
that was retcon. That
that's
was
that's
retcon
what I
because
mean.
it's supposed to
Because
be the few. I don't
the
remember exactly what year it's supposed to be in Logan, but it's definitely the
it wasn't
future.
2024.
It wasn't 2024. It was not. I
I
don't know
know
what
that
year it's
much.
supposed to be. It was not
So
2024. It was
and
definitely further in the future than that.
that's why I said because
Yeah,
we still have the X-Men. We still have a lot
yeah,
of X-Men. And Deadpool knows about everything that's going on already.
yeah.
So
But one thing with the specifically the X-Men Fox movies is they don't
oh,
care about continuity at all.
I'm tripping.
What?
Because he it didn't. He died in the future,
Yes.
and because he died in the future, it was destroying the timeline from the future.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Yes.
I fucked that up. That's so they didn't do mess up anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you're dealing with something like the TVA, you can really play with time however you want, honestly. So there's probably ways, if you wanted to write the plot a certain way, there's ways you can write yourself around that. So it's not like the biggest plot hole, but it is
Right.
one that at least makes you kind of like stop and think, like,
Think about it.
does that correlate or does that make sense? But I mean, the one thing for me that kind of makes me kind of forgive it a little bit is the X-Men movies under Fox really had no continuity at all. There's like egregious plot holes in those.
Shit, from the
But
first one to the second one.
literally, like, there's egregious plot holes in those, but the films, not all of them, but a lot of the films that I think make up for those plot holes are really solid films, like Days of Future Past, like X-Men 2, like Logan doesn't follow continuity at all. Like, Logan basically says, like, oh yeah, remember X-Men Days of Future Past where Logan went in the past and saved everybody and
And
all the
fixed
X-Men
it.
are five and they lived happily ever after? Yeah, well, no, they're all dead now again. So you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot that they kind of just go with what's good for that own self-contained story without really worrying about what came before.
I'm
That's
not
kind of the
gonna
point they
lie.
got.
I'm still confused on the timeline because then we got Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, that was
So, like you said, like it's
that was
the
not
whole
good.
thing is just they didn't follow any
Yeah,
timeline continuity there, but
yeah,
ultimately, like I said, Logan is by far. I don't even want to say it's. The only reason I don't want to say it's the best Fox movie is because we got these new Spider-Man movies and
well,
we got
Spider-Man
Deadpool.
is Sony, so Spider-Man ain't even Fox. Yeah, you can't give him
We
that
got
one.
we got Deadpool, man.
I think Logan's better than Deadpool.
I
Logan
don't know,
is
man.
Logan is
I
a
think
superior film to
I
Deadpool.
think because we've had so many that many years of Wolverine and his story,
Yeah,
that finishing his story puts it up there.
yeah,
I don't think if Wolverine would have if Logan would have came out, if those first three X-Men or the first three Logan movies, just his solo movies came out back to back
yeah,
to back
yeah.
like Deadpool,
Mhm.
Logan would still
Oh,
be a good movie.
yeah, but that's a weak trilogy. Yeah, that's a weak
But
trilogy.
it is. But
Yeah,
also, like I said,
Logan is carrying it on his back.
I
Like, Logan's
just
carrying the team right now.
like I said Deadpool really came out and again it was rated R too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you got you did so like you saying it was great that they made it rated R because his send off. We know he kills people in the other X Men movies,
hmm
but you really don't see any blood.
yeah. It's the
Not
most
a lot of
graphic
it.
here.
And
Yeah,
he stabs somebody in body armor, then throw him, and then it's
hmm
gone. Deadpool, my man's he the first Deadpool movie. What did he spell out with the bodies?
Oh yeah,
Like his
yeah,
name, he spelled out dude's name. What was it,
yeah. I'm
Trevor or
trying to
something
remember.
like that?
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to remember now. But yeah, that you talking about the fight scene on the highway?
No, the one at the on top of the ship at the
Oh yes, yeah. Francis,
yeah, France.
Francis.
He
Yeah,
spelled out my
Francis.
man's name and
Yeah,
body
yeah,
part. You know, so,
yeah. Yeah,
so
yeah.
I like I said, I loved it because like I said, it's rated R. It should have been rated R.
Yeah.
All of Logan's movies should have been rated R.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they should have been for sure.
it was a good send off, like I said, and we can find things to pick apart about movies all day,
I
but
really can't find much to pick apart in Logan, honestly. For
I
me, like there's
I can
not
go back.
much.
I'm
There's not
finding
much in that
I'm
movie I
thinking
can go
about
back and
things
pick
picking it
apart.
apart now. This like that's why I said it. But
It'll
if
be
I
like
go back,
strong nitpicks, like
if I
I
go back and
reached to nitpick at this movie. It's like
if
those
I
kind of
go back and
nitpicks.
watch it, I will find.
Yeah,
But
like you probably could, but that's what I'm saying. To me, this film is that strong. Like it'd be like The Dark Knight, right? Like, could you nitpick at things in that movie that aren't good? Yes, but it's like you're reaching to
nah,
do so.
man, I can't
They're not apparent.
I
They're
can't even
not like
compare Logan to the Dark Knight.
I can,
I
I
can't put
can,
that.
I can,
I see. I don't. I
I
can't put
can.
that over the Dark Knight.
I can. I mean,
I know
it's
you
not like a
did.
yeah. I'm not saying I can. It's not like a definitive like Logan stamped number one, and but
Yeah.
like for me personally, for how good that film was and how great it sent off that character that we've been sitting with for damn near 20 years at that point. That was to me the best film that we've gotten out of any X-Men property. Period.
Oh, I agree.
By far.
100% agree with you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go
by
back and
far.
watch it though, because I don't. What they came out in 2017.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And the reason I give it the slight edge over the Dark Knight for me is it has the great writing and storytelling that made the Dark Knight good. Maybe not as many quotables. That's probably like the only thing you could give the Dark Knight the edge on there. But it had the strong storytelling and character development and character study that the Dark Knight had. But the fight scenes are better. Because let's
Oh
just
no,
be
no, yeah, no.
slightly honest here.
It's
If
not a
there's
slightly honest. That's
yeah,
a
there's
the fight scenes in the Dark Knight and or the Batman
yeah,
that the
all of them,
Christopher
all
Nolan
the Christopher Nolan
trilogy.
Batman
Yeah,
trilogy, them fight
was
scenes are
not
not
great.
it.
It
Yeah,
was
they're
not
not
great.
it.
You know,
So
even
this film takes the strong storytelling elements that make the Dark Knight so well, but also they remember that like this is also a superhero movie, so the action
right.
scenes have to be equally as quality. I thought Logan did that. About that man, that fight scene outside of that black family's house was nuts.
I don't. That's why I said
Pure
I got to go back and
chaos.
watch it. I do not
That is just
remember
pure
that.
chaos. Like that was a scene. It's the scene where Professor X dies.
I remember what you talked. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
don't
yeah,
remember the full scene because
yeah,
it was like at a farmhouse kind of right.
yeah. Well, actually, a lot of people die in that scene. The family dies. Professor X dies.
Yeah, I have
Caliban
to. I'm gonna have to go
sacrifices
back and watch
himself.
it.
It was a lot of people don't make it out of that scene. Spoiler
Not
alert to those who haven't seen this movie that came out damn near six,
almost
six
10
years
years
ago.
ago.
Yeah, I was about to say like
Uh,
6, 7 years ago. But
2017.
But yeah, but that is our top 10 favorite comic book films. Let
Honorable
us know you
mentions.
guys' thoughts. I'm sure there's
Superhero
superhero slash comic book films
films.
because you took some liberties. You took some with your
No,
honorable
no.
mention. You took some
Don't just
liberties.
say I took liberties because you said The Incredibles.
The Incredibles is a superhero movie,
Not comic book.
not a comic book, but it's a superhero movie. It is a superhero movie. Yes, it counts as a
Hey,
superhero
liberties
movie.
were taken. All right,
Liberties were taken.
it
A few
happened.
liberties were taken, but it's cool. There's still quality films on both of our lists. Let us know what you guys think. I'm sure there will be some disagreements with how we structured this, and I'm sure as superhero nerds and comic book nerds, you guys will be very reasonable and not over the top in articulating your disagreements with us because that's usually how nerds are when they do things like that. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. That has been our top 10 list of our favorite comic book slash superhero films. Please continue to show support, like, subscribe to the channel. And until next time, this is the real fanatics. See ya.